Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, presented by our friends over at Briar Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood boaters, or business insurance, Briar Greaves Insurance are the best people in the business to work with. For more information, visit briargreavesinsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. And tell them that Pewter Report sent you. Happy Wednesday, everybody. We are getting over the hump, getting closer to the weekend, which means another day closer to Bucs training camp as we are in the midst of about 6 weeks until the Bucs hit the practice field once again, donning the red and pewter or white, depending on who's on offense and who's on defense. Regardless, we're going to mix up some of the topics and look a little bit ahead to which Bucs players could be Pro Bowl players this year. Now, of course, we don't want them playing in the Pro Bowl because that would mean that they are preparing for the Super Bowl, but it's nice to get nominated anyway. So we're going to break down a couple players, see who has the best possibility to play in that Pro Bowl game. I'm your host, Matt Pewter. Joined with me is the face that runs place at pewterreport.com, SR, Scott Reynolds. Scott, how are we doing?
Doing good. This is kind of a fun show because there's a lot of Buccaneer potential Pewter Pro Bowlers here on this list, and we'll see. There's been, I think, a couple years where they had like 6 guys in the Pro Bowl, right? 2021 was the last big Pro Bowl year. You had Marpet, you had Jensen, you had Shaq Barrett, you had Brady, you had a bunch of guys make the Pro Bowl team, and then there was a couple of years back in, I want to say it was 1999 under Tony Dungy. You had like Jeff Christie and Randall McDaniel and Mike Allstott and just a bunch of players. So there's been years where they've had like 5 or 6 guys go to the Pro Bowl. And of course, 2002 was also a big Pro Bowl year. You had not just your typical standbys. I mean, shoot, Rondé Barber didn't make it, but you had Simeon Rice and Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks and John Lynch. Then you had Shelton Quarles make the Pro Bowl as the middle linebacker on that Super Bowl team. And Brad Johnson became a Pro Bowl quarterback for the Buccaneers. Second time that's ever happened. Trent Dilfer was the first back in 1997 as an alternate. So this could be one of those seasons, though, where if the Buccaneers had the year that we think they're capable of having, 12, 13 wins, not out of the question, I think, with the talent on this team and the schedule. Mm-hmm. This could be one of those years where they've got a lot of players in the Pro Bowl. And kind of like to piggyback of what we talked about yesterday, there's some opportunities for the Buccaneers as a team to make some noise early. Yeah. That week 1 game at Atlanta, we talked about that and what that could do for Baker Mayfield heading into week 2, which is Monday Night Football, early season exposure against the Texans. And then in week 4, you've got that Philadelphia Eagles game. Even though it's not a national TV, that's the defending Super Bowl champs and a Buccaneer team that's knocked them off the last 2 times they've played. So within the first 4 weeks of the season, there's a chance the Buccaneers 3-1, 4-0. And if that's the case, I think you're going to see a lot of momentum build early for a lot of Buccaneer players to get potential Pro Bowl consideration.
Yeah, in order for the Bucs to get national publicity and attention and, other national shows talking about them, the Bucs season kind of needs to be like an article that we write on pewterreport.com. Yeah. You want to hook the reader right away with either the title or the first couple of sentences in the paragraph, something to hook the reader to keep them going as the rest of the story and article and paragraph keeps going. And I think that needs to be the case for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who many of them don't care about making the Pro Bowl. They'd rather start out the season 7-0 than go, 3-4. But hey, you had a couple of good statistical games, therefore you're in a good situation to reach the Pro Bowl. And it's very interesting because now that it's the Pro Bowl games and it's flag football and it's catching contests and all these stupid games and dodgeball and all these things that go on, the way that they build the teams has been different as well. For example, only 3 quarterbacks go. 2 or 3 running backs as well. Only 2 tight ends, 4 wide receivers. So the numbers kind of like jumble around a little bit where some people get voted in right away, but others are only there. They're alternates. They wouldn't be there unless the guy you're replacing is in the Super Bowl or injured or something like that. So Baker Mayfield is a good example of that. Baker didn't get voted into the Pro Bowl. He was an alternate
Right.
to play the last 2 years because either a quarterback declined to play or was playing in the Super Bowl. Last year, Jaden Daniels made the Pro Bowl, and somehow Sam Darnold made it over. But Jaden Daniels elected not to play in the Pro Bowl, so therefore Baker Mayfield participated. In fact, there were only 2 Buccaneers that were actually voted into the Pro Bowl last season, but they had 4 participate due to the alternate type of angle. So there's a lot more players that have a case for making the Pro Bowl on the Buccaneers than guys that we could say, he's probably not going to make it, or he's probably not going to make it. But it comes down to the numbers game more than anything else for who's going to be eligible, who's got a chance, and who is going to be in the Hall of Very Good games.
Yeah, and we've identified 17 players. There might be some controversy here, but 17 players with Pro Bowl potential. Doesn't mean that they're going to the Pro Bowl, that they're favorites or whatever. But as we've seen with a player like Zach Bond, right? He goes to the Eagles and just has a blow up year, and phenomenal tackle numbers, sacks, interceptions, takeaways. And he also, hey, listen, when you're playing on this eventual Super Bowl champion, that doesn't hurt your chances either, because you're a high profile team there, playing in a big market too. In Philly doesn't hurt. But so to me, there's some guys here on this list that have the potential to have a breakout type of season. And then we've also seen plenty of times the Buccaneers have gotten screwed, like Lavonte David. He was a first-team All-Pro in 2013, his second year in the league, didn't even make the Pro Bowl. Same thing happened to Antoine Winfield Jr. 2 years ago. 2023, got snubbed for the Pro Bowl, yet somehow was a first-team All-Pro. And, of course, All-Pro, if you don't know the distinction, All-Pro means regardless of conference affiliation, AFC or NFC, like, are you one of the 2 best safeties in the league? And if you are, then you're one of the All-Pro safeties. Whereas Pro Bowl, as Matt said, you get a couple of players on each conference at the different positions. And so kind of increases your odds, your chances of making the Pro Bowl team. But the All-Pro team is more prestigious.
Way more
because of that. Yeah. And of course, the Pro Bowl game is a joke. It's devolved into flag football. So like a skills competition.
I mean, it's not it's for the kids at this point.
Yeah, you're right. Yes.
It's all the silly games, like the offensive and defensive linemen don't play. Like, they play in tug of wars. There is some entertainment to it for sure, but it's not like
field day, right? Like when
like that's a good way to describe it. It's very much like field day. I mean, I still remember the time. I still remember the time, and R.I.P. Sean Taylor, but when he obliterated the punter, Brian Moorman, I believe it was the Bills punter. His name was Brian Moorman. They ran a fake punt, and Sean Taylor, R.I.P., just absolutely knocked the crap out of him. And credit to Brian Moorman, he got right back up, and I think he even hit Sean Taylor on the shoulders, being like, good hit. But you don't really see those plays, those moments anymore. They don't even do it in Hawaii anymore. It's been in Orlando, which has been cool for Pewter Report, because we were able to send some people over there and get some content and photo and video and stuff like that, especially the last 2 years of Baker being there, having to comment on a new offensive coordinator.
Right.
The Bucs have that every single year. It's been, and of course, Baker won it 2 seasons ago, the Pro Bowl MVP, which was a nice little tip of the cap. So, well, we'll see. I mean, we've talked a lot about how this team has all of the talent in the world to compete and be a contender and go with the best of the best in the entire league. But individually, I think there are a number of guys that certainly could make a claim to be in the Pro Bowl this upcoming season. Again, with the asterisk of hopefully contending for a Super Bowl, not playing in the game, but getting the votes.
Yeah, and you're mentioning that Sean Taylor hit on the punter, which was insane.
It's awesome.
There's been a couple notable injuries, right? Like Leroy Selman injured his back at the Pro Bowl, and that ended his career. Now, he didn't want to have back surgery, which I guess back in the early 1980s was a little bit more sketchy than it is today. But he decided to hang it up. He was still in his prime at the time, so that was very unfortunate. Drew Brees suffered, I believe, an elbow injury or shoulder injury at the Pro Bowl. So it used to be a game, and it used to be a game where, and again, this is back in the day. This is with different amounts of cash. But and forgive me if I don't remember exactly, but like it used to be like the loser would get $25,000 for playing in the game, each player, and the winner would get like 50,000. And so you'd kind of see the game, being played a little, loose until the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden it's almost like an NBA game, right?
Yeah.
Where they don't really try until the last 4 minutes of each half, right? And then they really turn it on. And the fourth quarter was usually like, all right, let's win this $25,000, and you would see the intensity ramp up, and it got pretty spirited. There was a time when Neil Smith of the Kansas City Chiefs got into a fight with Kevin Gogan, who was an offensive lineman at the Pro Bowl, and they got ejected from the Pro Bowl.
That's unbelievable. That's like, probably has never happened, never happened in all of any sport. Like,
well, that's something. The Pro Bowl game used to be an actual game with like hitting, tackling, all of that stuff. And I understand the whole player safety thing and all that. And I mean, shoot, there was a running back, and I forget his name. He was a very talented running back for the New England Patriots, and he ended up playing. And this was like a beach volleyball game, and it was in the sand, and he wrecked his knee, and his career was over. I'm trying to look it up right now. Gosh, I can't remember. Yeah, he was the first Pro Bowl trip ruined the promising young career of, and it doesn't show the name here. Robert Edwards. Yeah.
Okay.
Robert Edwards literally had a career-ending injury playing beach volleyball at the Pro Bowl in one of those like games before the game.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy. So I understand from a player safety standpoint why it's changed, but I just remember it being more of a thing back then. And it was actually pretty fun and entertaining to watch, especially when you had some fights and big hits and the intensity ramped up. And it was an actual game back then.
I'm trying to think. I believe this was a Pro Bowl as well, and this didn't happen on the field, but another infamous moment from the Pro Bowl was when Peyton Manning called his kicker an idiot when he was like, we're trying to win games out here. We got our idiot kicker mouthing off on the side or whatever the case was.
Yeah.
He's talking about Mike Vanderjagt. So there are still certainly some moments where it gets noteworthy at the Pro Bowl. Of course, Mike Evans recording some interceptions on defense. Ali Marpet played his last career game. We didn't know it at the time, but his last career game was at the Pro Bowl. And I remember they threw an interception, and he was like sprinting down the field to try to make the stop on one of those. Yeah, that 2021 team, they had a lot of guys.
Antoine Winfield Jr. actually picked off Patrick Mahomes and ran it in for a touchdown, I want to say, at the Pro Bowl. So, but yeah, it used to be a game. Now it's flag football, field day, whatever. I guess they do like potato sack races and water balloon toss and all that stuff. But what we're talking about is the actual honor, the distinction. And it does go a long way into Hall of Fame consideration, right? I mean, if you tack on Matt 4 or 5, because he's got one. Lavonte David has one Pro Bowl berth on his resume. He's got, one All-Pro, one Pro Bowl from different years. If you tack on 4 more, if you give Lavonte David 5 Pro Bowl berths on his career, and he probably should have had at least 5, if not more.
Yeah.
We're not even having a conversation about, is he a Hall of Famer or not? We think he's a Hall of Famer. The stats say he is, but it's a process, right? Rondé Barber wasn't a surefire, Hall of Famer. Neither was John Lynch. They weren't first ballot guys. And I don't think Lavonte David, if he does get in, will be a first ballot guy. But I mean, that's the argument that non-Buccaneer related people would make, is that when they just look at the resume, they say, well, one Pro Bowl, I mean, probably not deserving of that.
Yeah.
That's kind of what Lavonte David's going to be dealing with when it comes to Canton, right, Matt?
Unfortunately, yeah, because, we talk about when the voting comes around of like, the Pro Bowl, it's rigged. Everyone votes for, like, because the players can vote too, and the players should vote for like their friends and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, who cares? It's a meaningless game. But it kind of goes back to that saying of the winners write the history books.
That's right.
Because when you look back at it, no one goes, oh, who cares about the game? Oh, he did nothing in the game. You go, okay, he made a Pro Bowl. He made a Pro Bowl. Lavonte only made one. And it just makes because again, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about yesterday with Baker and the MVP, eventually it gets boiled down to 1 to 2 people, maybe 2 to 3, and you're comparing one person to another person, maybe to a third person. Right. And you go, well, person A did this and person B did that. For Lavonte, if it's Lavonte versus really anyone, it's tough to make it as, well, he should have been in the Pro Bowl, because no one else really wants to hear that. It's either you're in or you're not. And it's not fair to Lavonte David, and it just makes his hike and his mountain climb up to the top of making the Hall of Fame that much more difficult, which is why I feel that it's his life, it's putting his body on the line. But to me, the best way for Lavonte David to get into the Hall of Fame is to continue to be a starter, to keep playing, to keep racking up tackles, maybe get another championship. He's almost got to go, and I know Mike has the record, but the Mike Evans route of like longevity, most consistent at a high level and at a high age. And I know Lavonte doesn't have a record he could chase. Like, he's not chasing LT for something, or Ray Lewis or something like that. But if he can keep playing and keep winning, even if he only has one Pro Bowl appearance and the All-Pro, which should help, he can build that Hall of Fame resume that way. It's still going to be very difficult. I think we all believe that he should be in, but the marketing campaign needs to start now. We've spoken about Lavonte getting in front of microphone a little bit more, doing all of these interviews, and that's helping.
I wouldn't hate Pro Football Talk. John Gruden.
I wouldn't hate if Lavonte, and Lavante's so humble, and he's always about the team first. We understand that, as Todd Bowles would say. But I would love for Lavonte to be like, you know what? I am a Hall of Famer, or I am one of the best inside linebackers, or I was one of the best inside linebackers. Screw Luke Kuechly. No, he shouldn't say that. Luke Kuechly was a great inside linebacker, but you know, like, bring a little bit of that diva wide receiver to himself in an environment where it's not impacting everybody else around him, because Lavonte David has earned that right more than anyone else on this team, maybe besides Mike Evans. But besides that, Lavonte should be in front of a camera being like, damn it, I am great, and nobody can compare to what I've done in this league. And you know what? If we have to go Inception, get Leo DiCaprio to put it in everybody's mind that Lavonte is a Hall of Famer, I'm down with it.
I love it. That's one of my favorite movies. I love that, Matt. But you're right. It's if he keeps racking and stacking these stats, right? And look, if you look at last year, started all 17 games, great for him. 122 tackles, 5.5 sacks, which was actually the second most sacks he's ever had in his career. His career high was back in 2013, which was that All-Pro season where he got snubbed. Let me just read you. Let me read you the Lavonte David stat line. I don't have it pulled up here on a graphic per se, but I'll just read it. In 2013, his second year in the league, 145 tackles. He had 107 solo. He had 7 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery, 5 interceptions, 5 picks, which was a career high for him, and 10 pass breakups. That's an All-Pro season, folks, but it wasn't good enough for the Pro Bowl. Okay. Well, the good news is, again, last year, 122 tackles. I think if he gets 100 tackles or more, that helps his status. Like if you're a 1,000-yard running back and you rush for 1,075 yards, or if you rush for 1,200 yards, you're still a 1,000-yard back, right? That's just kind of how you're viewed around the league. So if he gets over 100 tackles again, if Todd Bowles can blitz him, and he's a guy that can get home on those blitzes, we've seen that. So to me, 5 or more sacks again, what that's going to do is that's going to get him over 40 sacks. Right now, he's got 39 in his career. And so that's going to just kind of make his case. And Luke Kuechly retired a couple years ago, and that's one of those guys that statistically you're going to kind of look at. And if Lavonte keeps going and keeps getting more statistics, because Kuechly was playing for a Panthers team that was in the Super Bowl, that was in the playoffs, that was winning division titles during that decade of darkness where the Buccaneers weren't until 2020, right? So Lavonte comes in at 2012, no playoffs until 2020, which was most of his career. So I think that helps him out. He's got 31 forced fumbles. That's a supreme number. He's got 19 fumble recoveries. If he gets another fumble recoveries, over 20 there. It just, those types of numbers, if he can just kind of crest a couple of those, I think it's going to help his cause. And you know what? Maybe from a sentimentality standpoint, if he has a big year this year, maybe the league looks at and says, yeah, like, you're going to have a Pro Bowl season. Granted, Fred Warner, Zach Bond, like there's some other guys now that have to kind of come down a little bit for Lavonte to have that. But he's made the Pro Bowl before. He's kind of a household name. He would need a big season, especially in terms of splash plays. But I'm not going to rule out the old man, not just yet.
No, because even if you look at who made it last year, you'd mentioned Fred Warner and Zach Bond. Bond did not play in the game because the Eagles were in the Super Bowl. Bobby Wagner was the alternate. And I think there's a chance that depending on how the Commanders look this year, and I mean, they are primed to be pretty good after the offseason moves that they made, but maybe this is the year where Lavonte takes a leap over Bobby Wagner. They've always been compared to each other for so long. And another thing, again, when it comes back to the marketing campaign besides Lavonte David or for Lavonte David, J.J. Watt had tweeted about Lavonte David. I want to say like a month ago, but not too long ago, where he said Lavonte David is criminally underrated. Yeah. We need a couple, we need Rondé Barber tweeting that out.
Yeah.
We need a couple of
former
player, Derek Brooks, but former players or even current players.
Yeah.
Some talking heads. Like I know Will Compton from Bussin' with the Boys. He was teammates with Lavonte David at Nebraska. But every now and then he'll tweet about Lavonte David, and he obviously has a gigantic following. So we need some more former players driving the hype machine for Lavonte David. It can be done. It's not going to be easy, but a couple of more Pro Bowl nominations will certainly help his cause.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's talk about those players that we think are Pro Bowl potential in Tampa Bay. And we'll start on the offensive side, of course, and it's Baker Mayfield who leads the list at the quarterback position because he's made the Pro Bowl the last couple of years. And he's made that as like an alternate, but I think with a really good year. And I think how the Pro Bowl typically works is if you haven't made the Pro Bowl and you have a Pro Bowl caliber season, and as long as your follow-up year is pretty good, then you kind of get in the next year as the makeup for being a snub. But I think Mayfield now can really earn the Pro Bowl honors without having to necessarily be an alternate. Jaden Daniels is going to be one of those guys just because he gets so much pub. He's so talented, right? He's going to be one of those guys that's going to get in. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, Kyler Murray made it over Tom Brady in 2020. Like, that was a big time snub. It was kind of criminal as well. So Tampa Bay has to overcome that because it's happened to, I mean, holy crap, man. If it can happen to Lavonte David, Antoine Winfield Jr., and Tom Brady, Tampa always seems to get the short end of the stick from the national perspective. But Mayfield now, I think, is really kind of asserted himself, and this would be his third season in Tampa. So he's got a legit chance of making it, certainly as an alternate, but I think he's got a chance to just go outright this year.
I'd like to see Baker make it outright because he was an alternate the last 2 years. The quarterbacks that made it last season before Baker as an alternate was Jared Goff, Sam Darnold, and Jaden Daniels. Now, Goff will be very interesting because there's no Ben Johnson this year. He's now with the Chicago Bears. Jaden Daniels, I think, is going to be a lock to make it. I mean, he's a sensation, offensive rookie of the year, even if he has an okay season. The other candidates that
he's like the new Patrick Mahomes, right? He's like the new face of the league.
Yes,
right?
He's the next big thing. The other ones I would keep an eye on is Jalen Hurts for sure, because he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He gets a little bit more attention in that sense. Dak Prescott, just because it's the Cowboys and he was injured last year, if he can get the Cowboys to a playoff spot, he might be a possibility as well. Jordan Love with the Packers is a guy that's always in the conversation. Right. So, those are some of the guys that I think might give Baker a little bit of a run for his money. But at the same time, as you mentioned, like once you're already about the conversation and you've proved it at the Pro Bowl level, it's kind of like with the offensive lineman. Like you got to get in that inner circle of household names, and Tristan Wirfs is certainly in that. And once you're in, you kind of get the by default type of nomination. And good for Sam Darnold was able to get it last year. I don't think he's going to get it this year now going to the Seattle Seahawks. Caleb Williams would be quite interesting too, considering he was the number 1 overall pick If he's able to step it up, and people have been aching for the Bears to do anything,
Sure.
just another person that could give Baker a
He's
run
in a
for
big
his
market.
money.
Yeah, Chicago. I get it.
Yeah.
It makes perfect
but
sense.
I would still, like, if I were betting on it, I'd bet Baker to make the Pro Bowl this year. I don't know what his odds would be, but I would certainly put money on that.
Yeah. I think the lock is Tristan Wirfs. If he just stays healthy, like he's a lock. He is the Pro Bowl lock now for the Buccaneers. And then I think the other two guys on offense that you and I agreed with, Mike Evans. I think the key is getting over 1,000 yards and getting double-digit touchdowns, and the Buccaneers having a winning record. The other thing too is with him tying Jerry Rice for 11 consecutive seasons of 1,000 yards. I think this is going to be one of those national narratives, Matt. If he gets another 1,000-yard season, then he breaks Jerry Rice's mark. Is that correct? He would have 12 now.
Yes, he would break. So Mike already has the record for consecutive seasons of 1,000 yards to begin a career. Yeah. But yes, currently he is tied for just most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons because Jerry Rice began that in his second year. So yes, he would hold that record in his own right.
So I think if he stays healthy and that looks doable and attainable, the fact that it's a record-setting thing, and now Mike is kind of established as a star, and he's also a guy too that's made a lot of the national rounds this offseason on the podcast.
Yeah, Kevin Hart. Then his commercial with Jerry Rice as well. And you can make the case, you can make the argument. There's tougher competition for a wide receiver,
no doubt,
to get into the Pro Bowl from the NFC than what Baker has to go through at quarterback in the NFC. Because even last year, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, C.D. Lamb, Terry McLaurin. I think Mike could certainly get in before Terry McLaurin, and maybe even C.D. Lamb, depending on what goes on with the Cowboys. But Justin Jefferson is always going to be difficult. But kind of like that Lifetime Achievement Award for Mike Evans, I think could propel him. Tristan Wirfs is,
and he's made what, 4? He's made 4 Pro Bowls or 5 now for Mike. Was last year 5?
He's technically been in 6.
6, okay, with a couple of those call up for injuries and all that stuff. So 6 Pro Bowls. So I mean, he's not like a VIP where he shows up at the door of the Pro Bowl club like Tristan, and they just, you're in, right? He has the membership card. He's got to find it in his wallet and say, I've been to 6, and then they'll check it at the door and say, okay, all right, we'll let you in. He's not the walk-up guy like Tristan where they just see him and wave him in.
Right.
Mike's got to reach in and grab the Pro Bowl card and have them, check it at the door and stuff. But you're right. I think there's a chance that he makes it there. I think the other player on the offense in terms of skill positions, and we had Tristan as a skill position because that's what Liam Cohen said. He's a skill position.
He's a weapon. He's a
weapon on offense. Is Bucky Irving. And the interesting thing about Bucky is he plays a dynamic position, running back. And he is a dynamic player, right? He's a highlight machine, right? That's the thing. He is a highlight machine. He has got some crazy runs, and he's shown the ability to rip off 30-yarders. I think what was his longest, a 56-yarder this year. So he's got the ability to make some dynamic plays. 8 rushing touchdowns. I think for him, he's got to probably hit 12 combined touchdowns, right, between rushing and receiving scores. And that might be a little difficult because Rachaad White's going to get his. Remember, Rachaad had 6 receiving touchdowns last year, and I want to say 3 rushing touchdowns. But they also split time. Bucky, if he is truly the lead back this year and stays healthy for at least most of the season, the fact that he ran for 1,122 yards.
Yeah, exactly.
If he gets to 1,400 yards and has double-digit touchdowns and the Bucs are winning, I think definitely he's in the conversation, especially since he's just such a unique player. He's not one of those running backs that kind of gets lost in the shuffle, right?
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. 8 rushing touchdowns. Surprisingly, did not have a receiving touchdowns. I know we just talked about how Rachaad White is mainly running back. But
his lone receiving touchdown came against the Commanders in the playoff game. That was his first one, but it wasn't the regular season.
That's right. Yeah, that's very true. Also was the AP made the all-rookie team as the running back. And I think Bucky has a pretty good shot to get in. Again, when you look at some of the guys that made it last year, Saquon, Jahmyr Gibbs, Josh Jacobs, Bijan Robinson was the alternate. I could certainly see Bucky getting in over Josh Jacobs. And the way that Jahmyr Gibbs shares snaps with David Montgomery over with the Detroit Lions. Again, Ben Johnson throws such a different wrench into what's going on with the Lions this year now that he's the head coach of the Bears. There's a lot of different things that could go on with the Lions, especially because they don't have their defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, who's now the head coach of the Jets that the Bucs will see. If you have a bad defense, that's going to impact your offense as well. You're not going to be able to run it as much. And on the flip side, Josh Broussard and his Yale background, his ability to find different creative ways. I mean, he was in charge of third down last season and had the best third down efficiency in the league. Now he's in charge of first, second, third, and fourth down. I can only imagine all of the new things that we haven't even seen yet that we probably won't even see during training camp that is going to benefit not just Baker and Mike Evans, but Bucky Irving specifically. I think if Bucky can play a full 17 games, he's going to be I don't think he's going to get 2,000 yards yet, but I think 1,400 yards rushing is well within the realm of possibility, maybe even 1,500 for Bucky Irving. So I think either this year or next year, he's going to make his first Pro Bowl appearance. I think that highly of Bucky. I'm not the only one that thinks that highly of Bucky, but I think he really has the ability to be a special type of player for the Bucs.
I do too. Let's round out the offense with a couple of offensive linemen that have a chance, right? It's going to be a little tough for Luke Gedeke because, again, he's not in the club yet.
Yeah.
And you look at the offensive tackles, well, he's going up against Tristan Wirfs. We know Tristan's going to get in.
Right.
And then you've got Penei Sewell, who is the all-pro right tackle, where Tristan is the all-pro left tackle. He plays for the Lions. And then you got Lane Johnson, who's just kind of that household name for the Eagles. Still a very good player, but just kind of like, VIP status in the club, right? He's just been that ever-present guy for the Eagles in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, he sits at the same spot in the club every single time that he's there. Roped off for him. He just
exactly. Yeah. And then you had Brian O'Neill, who was a replacement for Lane Johnson, the Vikings offensive tackle. And then Taylor Decker, the other tackle for the Lions, the left tackle, he was the replacement for Sewell last year. So, there's a chance that Gedeke gets in, but probably not as a starter, maybe as one of those reserves. But then he's got some competition because, again, it's all about name recognition, and household names win. And you already have Brian O'Neill now, who got into the Pro Bowl, and Taylor Decker, even though they were reserves, they just have that little bit of leg up on Gedeke. And listen, if you're going to be an offensive lineman and get into the Pro Bowl, just ask Paul Gruber. You better be on an elite team, because Paul Gruber, who's in the Bucs Ring of Honor, never made the Pro Bowl once, but yet was one of the best offensive tackles during his time. Just the Buccaneers never made the playoffs until like his last year, and he broke his leg. The Bucs probably have to be a 12 or 13 win team for Wirfs and Gedeke to get in.
Right. I mean, even take it further. You look at the Hall of Fame. How many Hall of Fame players were predominantly on bad teams? You don't see Hall of Fame players from bad teams. And part of it is you don't get the attention. So the best thing for Luke Gedeke is, one, Tristan Wirfs campaigning for him because they are boys and they got bench row records and everything like that. But two, continue to have, and I think Protector, what I'm hoping, Scott, is because they have Protector of the Year now, a new award that's coming out to the best offensive lineman.
Right.
And we don't know how the NFL is going to market this, essentially. But what I hope is that, how like each week there's Offensive Player of the Week, Defensive Player of the Week, and then the air and ground and awards and stuff like that. I hope each week they take a time to give a shout out to a couple of offensive linemen that had a great week of games, whether it was like a big pancake block or going up against TJ Watt and you stonewall him for like the entire game or something like that to give little highlights. I think that could benefit Luke Gedeke a lot because, as we know, teams don't want to put their best edge rusher against Tristan Wirfs unless they enjoy just going off of where the left tackle would be, and because that's their natural side. But a lot of the times, Luke Gedeke gets tasked with the best pass rusher of the opponent. And we're talking about a team that was number one in rushing last year. So if you include that, and you include Luke Gedeke continuing to build as a great offensive tackle, a guy that, as Jason Light said on this show, can go psycho and and fight the other team in defense of Baker Mayfield or whoever, we need to start building some highlight reels of Luke Gedeke to get him into that conversation, because it's almost impossible to move past Lane Johnson and even Penei Sewell at this point. They're just, it's the two of them and Tristan are just, they stuck their claim to it, and until Lane Johnson retires, nobody else is even budging in that area. But I think Luke Gedeke has all of the potential to be a Pro Bowl player. It's just about getting the name recognition at this point.
Right. So really, when you look at Luke Gedeke, if you're a right tackle and you've never made the Pro Bowl, you have to absolutely shut out some stud pass rushers, and he's going to have his hands full this year. All right. In Houston in week 2, right, they've got Danielle Hunter and they've got Will Anderson Jr., right? One of those guys is going up against Luke Gedeke in week 2, right? Mm-hmm. Then you look at the next big primetime game, which would be Detroit Lions. Aiden Hutchinson got 4.5 sacks. Not all of those were on Justin School, because I think he looped inside one of them and got one on Malk. But 4.5 sacks in that game last year. He finished with 7.5 in like 6 games. So that's going to be key. If he can shut out Aiden Hutchinson on Monday Night Football, that's going to be huge. Mm-hmm. Then you look down at the next big primetime game. That's Jared Verse, right, with the LA Rams.
Oh, yeah.
On Sunday Night Football. So if Luke Gedeke is just an eraser for those 3 games, knocking out double-digit sackers every time he's on primetime, that's going to be key. So to me, that's the path. That's the Pro Bowl path for Luke Gedeke, is he literally has to make a name by just erasing some of the bigger pass rushers that he's going to face on the edge. And I think he's capable of doing it. We'll see. But I think that's his path. The other guys, as we round out the offense, Graham Barton, I did a Pewter Pulse video about this. You know, he's got first round draft status. And if you look at, you know, the recent retirements of Frank Ragnow this offseason for the Lions, he was a Pro Bowler. And then you've got Jason Kelce retiring before that with the Eagles. Kind of opens the door now. It's a little bit wide open. You've got Cam Jurgens from the Eagles, who made it last year. Eric McCoy, maybe the most talented New Orleans Saints player right now, to be honest, right? But he's the center for the Saints. Those were the other 2 Pro Bowlers. So to me, there's an open pathway now. Neither Jurgens nor McCoy really has that VIP membership in the Pro Bowl club right now. And so I think Graham Barton, with some really good games in prime time to start the season, I think he could make an early case right there, you know, for a Pro Bowl this year.
Yeah, and I think it helps that he was a first-round pick. I think that gives you a lot of fanfare, regardless of whether or not you're deserving of it. I do think eventually he will be deserving of it, but the way he has spoken this offseason about taking more of a lead and being the guy that everybody else can rely on, and righting the wrongs of, you know, his big mistake in that playoff game last season as well. He's got all the intangibles that you want as a leader and maybe a future captain of this team down the road. I mean, we saw how important Ryan Jensen, another redheaded guy, how important Ryan Jensen was to this team and to that offensive unit. I think Graham Barton, maybe a little bit of a different personality, but Graham Barton can certainly be that as well. And I don't know if it'll happen this year, but I think by the end of his rookie contract, Graham Barton will probably have made a Pro Bowl.
I agree. And the other dark horse on offense, and we'll see, he has the talent. We'll just see if he can crack the lineup, because you have Landon Dickerson for the Eagles, Tyler Smith for the Cowboys, Chris Lindstrom for the Falcons, and then Robert Hunt made the Pro Bowl last year from the Panthers as a replacement for Dickerson. But Cody Malk, he made huge strides last year, and I think the arrow's pointing up for him in year 3. I think he also has some Pro Bowl potential as well. He's probably the dark horse out of all the guys we mentioned on offense to make it, but we'll see. He's got the potential. One thing that there is potential for, unfortunately, in the state of Florida is hurricanes, and the folks at Briar Greaves Insurance want to let you know, fortunately, it's hurricane season, and that means you might need flood insurance along with your homeowner's insurance. And you can call Briar Greaves Insurance to let you know if you're in a flood zone, and that's not necessarily a coastline. It doesn't necessarily mean storm surge. It can also mean if you're on a riverbank or if you have a creek that can flood. Well, if that flood gets into your home, the homeowner's insurance is not going to fully cover your damages. You'll need flood insurance. So make sure you are properly insured. Also, too, they've got some great auto policies. Mine's with Travelers, but they're also now writing Geico policies as well. So the benefit to working with a locally owned family insurance business is you get to know the people. We had Tyler and John Greaves at our Pewter Platinum event. They're great guys. I can text either one. I can email them. They get back to me right away. It's great when you don't have to call some 1-800 number with your insurance company and wait on hold for 20 minutes and then speak to somebody that you don't even know. It makes the world of difference to work with somebody that you have a relationship with. That's the benefit to working with an independent agency. The other benefit, give them a call and say, hey, am I paying too much for my car insurance? Am I paying too much for my homeowner's insurance? Let them run the numbers for you for free. And if you can save some money, why not do it? Are you paying too much for homeowners? Are you paying too much for boaters or for auto? You might be. Why not give Briar Greaves a call? Let them run the numbers for you for free. And they can insure you anywhere across the state of Florida, even outside of the state in some instances. BriarGreavesInsurance.com. It's worth the call, folks. Save some money. 813-876-4166. And let the folks at Briar Greaves Insurance know that you heard about them on the Pewter Report podcast. We got a couple of great shows coming up because the week is not over. We have a show tomorrow at 4 p.m. When will Chris Godwin return? The return of Adam Slavon to the podcast and Matt Matera. Well, they're going to talk about that tomorrow and what some of the contingency plans might be for the early part of the season if Chris is not available at the start of the season. We'll have more on that tomorrow. And then on Friday for our Pewter Insiders, we've got a Pewter Insider show for our Pewter Platinum and Premier members. Can the Bucs get the number one seed in the NFC? We'll talk about that on Friday at 1:30. So that's going to be the last podcast of the week as we head into the weekend. And this is probably the best time to thank our Pewter Platinum members, as we always do. We appreciate Scott Federico and Rachel Gordon and Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel Elrican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zach Brannigan, RP89, Eric McMillan, Connor For Reals, Kevin Thomas, Mario Thomas, Leighton Carter, and I love this new guy here.
Yep.
The guy is gifted. I love that name. And Brandon Riley, thank you so much for being Pewter Platinum members. Greatly appreciate your support. Folks, if you want the invite to next year's Pewter Platinum event in Tampa, we have Mike Greenberg and Zion McCollum, along with the entire Pewter Report staff, minus Josh Capo, at walk-ons during the mandatory minicamp. Well, become a Pewter Platinum member. We're going to send you some free merch after a couple months as a thank you, and you're going to have that invite. Plus, you get a lot of the perks, all of the perks actually that we offer for all of our Pewter Report TV channel members, and you can find out those when you click on the join button on the front of Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel, and that'll have all the different membership levels starting at $3.99, going up to $24.99, and you can see all of the different benefits and perks you get. But that annual Platinum member meetup in Tampa, that was a cool one. We can't wait to do it. We're going to have more Bucs players and personnel there. Greenberg was great. McCollum was great. We'll try to have even more star-studded event next year. And hopefully more people with the bigger location. That'll be fun. But we enjoyed the heck out of our inaugural Pewter Platinum meetup in Tampa. So help our channel out and become a Pewter Report TV channel member. All of the money we get goes to our travel budget. So all we're doing is just going to all the locations to get you the Bucs scoop that y'all deserve and bringing it back to you here on pewterreport.com, our podcast, our website, as well as our podcast as well.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for your support. Again, a lot of fun at that Pewter Platinum member event, and definitely, if you can, please join. Let's get to these super chats. Trustin Vorbeck, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Says Werfs, Baker, Mike, Chris, Bucky, Winfield, Zion, Lavonte, Vita, Yaya, and Hassan Reddick. Book it. Thanks again for the best Bucs coverage out there. Thank you for the kind words.
Appreciate that. Yeah. And Brian Clark brings up Chris Godwin. Will Chris Godwin take snaps in week one? Appreciate the $2 super chat. dark horse Pro Bowler for 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. Listen, I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility because Chris has made the Pro Bowl before. And remember, in this offensive system, he was off on a career high tear. Yeah. He was leading the league, and he was certainly heading in a Pro Bowl direction last year before that knee injury or before the ankle injury in week 7. But we'll see how long it takes Chris to get back. And then can he regain last year's form so quickly? Yeah. That's going to be the biggest question. But you know what? We're going to tackle that on tomorrow's podcast.
I would also say, I don't think it's come out yet, but comeback player of the year. I think Chris Godwin could be a good prop bet for that one. Because outside of like Dak at quarterback, I think Chris, with his ability to get 1,000 yards, would be a pretty good one.
I agree.
LDBC's Most Wanted. Thank you for the 1999 Super Chat. Says, Saludos, Pewter Report. The Joe's a Joe Bucs fan had an interesting debate regarding Todd Bowles. One suggests that Todd is safe even if he finishes with a record below 500. The other thinks he needs a deep playoff run. What do you guys think?
I don't think Todd Bowles enters this year on the hot seat at all, even though they left the playoff picture a little early after that stunning loss at home to the Commanders. If he finishes below 500 with this team, and of course that means no playoffs, right? I don't know. I don't know what the factors would be. Like if this team is just beset with injuries, let's say Baker Mayfield blows his ACL out in week 1 or something, right? And the whole season's just kind of a calamity. Does Bowles get the blame for that? I don't know. But what I do know is the Glazers and Jason Light have a ton of confidence in Todd Bowles. They love everything he's done this offseason. I think heading into a season, he has more job security this year than he ever has.
Yes.
And that was put to the test when they had a chance to really prevent Liam Cohen from going to Jacksonville. They could have made the switcheroo and said, you know what, we're going to go with the shiny new toy, the guy that gets 30 points per game. We're going to make Liam Cohen the head coach rather than Todd. They didn't do that. They stuck with the guy that the players love, that is a leader of men, that when he has his full complement of players, is a damn good defensive coordinator. And, and they kept everybody in offense outside of Liam. So to me, I don't know. Depending if they have 8 wins, that's one thing. If they have 4 wins with this team, that's something different. But I'm pretty sure Todd Bowles is going to be safe this year. I really do.
I think it's a 2-year window for Todd Bowles. I think he's completely safe this year, regardless of what the record is, unless it's like 2 wins, which would be almost impossible. But I think he's completely safe this year. However, there is a lot of hanging in the balance, a lot of ways the pendulum can go in the following season. Because if the Bucs only win 7 games this year, if you're ownership, you're going, all right, Todd, this is the last straw. You got to do something this following season in 2026. But at the same time, if the Bucs have a great record, 13 wins, something like that, and they only get to the second round, it might be a Tony Dungy, John Gruden situation. Once again. So a lot is hanging in the balance in this 2-year window. And while I think he's completely safe this year, unless Todd Bowles gets to an NFC Championship game appearance, obviously you want him to win it, but unless he gets to an NFC Championship game appearance this season,
just like Dan Campbell 2 years ago.
Correct. I think in 2026, if you're a Bucs ownership, you got to say, this is the last straw, Todd. You either take us to the next level or we will find someone that we believe can take us to the next level. Maybe it's a 3-year window, but I truly think it's a 2-year window right now.
I think that's fair. I do. And Todd's 61, will be 62 this year. You know, he doesn't want to coach forever. He's already said he does not want to coach as long as Bruce Arians did. So Brian S. asking PR about their enemies with the 20 super chat is diabolical. Hey, we'll do anything for cash, just about anything. You know, when
$20, $20.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's fine. We've mentioned other media outlets on the show before. I mean,
we've had other media outlets on the show.
No doubt at all. Brian S. also says Pro Bowl potential for 25. Bucky, Baker, Tristan, Graham, Kalijah, Antoine Winfield Jr., and Zion. All right, let's talk about the defense here.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time about the offense. Let's go through the defensive players that have made it, and they have at least some name recognition. We'll start with Lavonte David. We've talked about him a little bit, but he's made one Pro Bowl. He's going to need a really big year to, I think, have that happen again. Vita Vea has now been a 2-time Pro Bowl guy. Kalijah Kancey can join the mix this year. Certainly, if he becomes a double-digit sacker, I think Vita Vea has started to establish himself as one of the best nose tackles. Now, there's no distinction in the Pro Bowl. A defensive tackle is a defensive tackle.
Correct.
A 3-tech who's going to be more that sack guy, or it is a nose tackle type. But Vita Vea getting 10 tackles and 2 sacks of Patrick Mahomes, was it a sack and a half, whatever it was? That was big for Vita Vea on Monday Night Football. So I think for him and for Kalijah Kancey, it's what damage can you do in prime time?
Yep.
And I think if they have big primetime games, sack big-time quarterbacks like C.J. Stroud, like Jared Goff, like Matthew Stafford, that's going to help their case. And I think both of those guys have Pro Bowl potential. The other guy that's been to the Pro Bowl on the Bucs defense is Antoine Winfield Jr., and he just seems due for a bounce-back year, man. He really does.
Yeah, he absolutely does. I would say Kalijah Kancey is my number one pick for a player on the Bucs to make their first Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
just based on what he did with the unit last year. Also, he's got the backing of Brian Baldinger, the reporter of NFL Network. He is always hyping up Kalijah Kancey, so it's good that he's got someone like that in his corner. Antoine Winfield Jr. is still owed a Pro Bowl from not making it in 2 seasons ago when he won. Was an all-pro player, but didn't make the Pro Bowl. And Hassan Reddick, I think, is another guy that, even if his numbers aren't the same as like another edge rusher out there, the fact that he had a bounce-back season, he could also win comeback player of the year. He might be the other guy that you should sprinkle a little bit of money on. I agree.
The thing with Reddick is he's a 2-time Pro Bowler before. He was in contention for NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 2023 with the Eagles, right? So he's had a massive year before. And we've also seen a guy with around 10 sacks make the Pro Bowl before. Jason Pierre-Paul had 9.5 sacks to lead the Buccaneers. In 2020, he was the lone Bucs Pro Bowler on that Super Bowl team. Shaq Barrett made the Pro Bowl in 2021, the next year, with 10 sacks. So he doesn't even need to have like 16 sacks or anything like that. It's just get to 10. And with his name, reputation, and if he gets 10 sacks, I think the Bucs are humming, and he could make a Pro Bowl. He's a name player.
Exactly, because you look at it's a little bit different with the Pro Bowl because like outside linebackers and defensive ends are a little bit different. But like the defensive ends last year were Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa, and Rashawn Gary. Right. Parsons will probably be back again, but like Bosa gets hurt a lot. Both the Bosa brothers get hurt a ton. And Hassan Reddick can get in over Rashawn Gary, with all due respect to Rashawn Gary. So Reddick, I think, would be a pretty good candidate if he can get, 12 sacks or whatever the case may be to represent the Buccaneers in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, for sure. The other guys that have a chance, and again, think Zach Bond. Think the guy that just comes out of nowhere, has a big statistical season, playing on a winning team like he did for the Eagles, and, anything can happen. Yaya Diaby, if he leveled up in every category last year except for sacks. If he's playing opposite Hassan Reddick and next to Kalijah Kancey and Vita Vea and in front of Lavonte David and Servase Dennis, he should be getting around 10 sacks. And I think if he reaches double digits, he has the potential to really make his case. And it might be a thing, Matt, where we talked about this before. You have the Pro Bowl type year, but then you get snubbed, and then you get all the media attention for being a Pro Bowl snub. Yeah. And as long as you're kind of in the same realm the next year, then you get the makeup year. So this might be a stair-step year for Diaby. If he blows it out statistically, 12 sacks or something, he might get in. But if anything, he's got to get more than 4.5. We agree with that. Yeah. But I think around 9 or 10, then he's knocking on the Pro Bowl door. He's got the potential, I think, to become that type of player. Now, is he a 15 or 16 sack guy like Simeon Rice was? I don't know. But he might just be a guy that can get you 10. The other player, too, Servase Dennis. Again, just kind of like Zach Bond. I mean, we've seen this guy get how many pick sixes in practice? If he could do that on
more
Sundays,
than we can count.
Yes. And again, the key for these Buccaneer players on offense and defense is shining in these primetime games. And that was a bugaboo last year. This team was blanked in all of their primetime games, didn't win a single damn one of them, especially that Commanders game in the playoffs. But if they can flip that script and show up and show out in Houston, in LA, in Detroit, and then on Thursday night against the Falcons. And you know what? That might be the exclamation point on kind of a Pro Bowl campaign on Thursday night to really kind of show out. Servacio Dennis, what does he need? Probably 120 plus tackles, probably 3 forced fumbles, probably 5 sacks, and probably a couple picks. And if he gets a pick 6, that helps his cause.
It's been a long time since there was a big defensive moment in a primetime game by a Bucs player. It's just, they're kind of tough to manufacture sometimes, but we haven't seen the Bucs have had plenty of primetime opportunities over the last 2 or 3 seasons, and no one or nothing has truly stood out. It's been the offense making plays. So if Servacio Dennis wants to get his name on the map, same with a friend of the program. Actually, Servacio is a friend of the program, but same with the friend of the program, friend of the community, Zion McCollum. For Zion's going to take at least 4 interceptions, in my opinion. But he's the type of guy, he's the type of player that people like to see in the Pro Bowl really emerging as a breakthrough and a breakout player. And maybe Zion is that guy.
And again, I think it goes to the primetime matchups, the big matchups. Can he shut down A.J. Brown in Tampa in week 4 when the Eagles come to town? Can he shut down Nico Collins in Houston in week 2? How's he going to fare against Amon-Ra St. Brown on Monday Night Football? How's he going to fare against Drake London on Thursday night against the Falcons, right? If he has some of those lockdown performances in big games, primetime games, that helps his cause. Just like we talked about Gedeke versus, the likes of Will Anderson and Aiden Hutchinson, those types of players. Zion's got to show up big in big-time moments, have big-time plays against big-time players. Then I think the other player that has the potential, and this is probably, it might be a year away for him, almost like Cody Malk, is Tyke Smith. I mean, this guy came in as a rookie, only played, 12, 13 games?
Yeah, 13.
13 games. 2 interceptions, tied for the team lead. 3 forced fumbles, tied for the team lead. He's going to get more snaps this year. He's a playmaker. He's an Antoine Winfield Jr. type player. So this is the guy to maybe keep an eye on. He might be the Cody Malk on defense, that kind of that dark horse, but he might be setting the table for a Pro Bowl run in 2026.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's the name recognition at safety right now that probably doesn't get Tyke Smith in more than anything else. But if you have the stats to back it up and you have a winning team, that's the biggest talking point. I mean, it didn't help Antoine Winfield Jr. Regardless, but I think Tyke is probably one of the better playmakers on this team in the secondary. Like, I'd say more than Zion. I'd say more than Jamel Dean. He's a straight up playmaker, and I think we'll really see that capability this year if the Bucs mostly play him at the safety position and not in the nickel.
Yep, I agree. The last guy, we're just going to mention him real quick, is Chase McLaughlin, Money McLaughlin.
Resident trash talker.
Yeah, if he gets around 93, 94% of his field goals, which he's capable of doing, and if he, I think more importantly, wins some games, right? If he kicks some game winners, has some moments, maybe on primetime games, right, where he nails game winners. That's going to help his cause at all. And so that's 17 players there we've mentioned with Pro Bowl potential. It's a lot. They're not going to get 17 in. They'll be hard pressed to get 7 in.
Right.
But those are the guys that we feel have the ability to get there, or at least begin to build their case, and maybe they end up in the Hall of Fame eventually by racking up some Pro Bowls. So maybe they're setting the table for 2026 with a great season in 2025, or maybe they get there in 2025 as a guy that gets voted in or as an alternate.
Yeah, and the best teams that win the most get the most players in, typically.
That's right.
So just keep winning, and you'll see a high number of Bucs in that Pro Bowl. No doubt.
I agree. If you want to win financially, give the folks at Immuni a call. I've got a lot of my personal investments over there at Immuni Financial. They're based in St. Petersburg, but they can help you across the country. So if you're a Pewter Report podcast viewer or listener from outside the state of Florida, you can still give them a call. And that number is 1-800-868-6864. That's 1-800-868-6864. Managing your family's wealth means more to Immuni Financial than simply allocating your assets. It means legacy planning, brokerage and advisory services, retirement accounts, college savings accounts, and insurance services. They've got over 40 years of experience. Let Immuni Financial help you plan ahead and stay ahead. Visit them on the web at immuni.com.
That's right. Check out Immuni Financial, and also check out pewterreport.com and Pewter Report TV. And make sure you're following us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on this video as well. Who you think will make the Pro Bowl for the Bucs this season? That's going to do it for us this afternoon. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Pewter saying thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.